Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome in. We are so glad you guys are here. We would love to know where you're calling in from. We've got Claude coming in. We're always interested. We always have a very worldwide crowd here, which is super exciting. Lots of people from Canada. I want to see the most random place possible. Actually, our co-presenter is from London, so that's super excited. We're very excited to have you guys here. And so we'll kind of get started with the presentation, which this one is called From Novice to Ninja, Transform Your Emails, Mastering Copywriting and Lead Magnets in Kartra. So really get ready to discover the pro tips and tricks of persuasive writing to set your emails and lead magnets apart. If this is your first Kartra community event, welcome in. If you're returning, welcome back. We are all thrilled you guys are here. We put these events on every month to provide you with expert knowledge and tips from Kartra's top experts that not only help you learn the power of Kartra, but teach you key skills to master and grow your business. All previous From Novice to Ninja events can be found in the guide section of the Kartra official community, so do check them out if you haven't already. We will have a Q&A at the end, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat. And also a replay of this will be available as soon as we wrap up today, so do check your email for that. Before we get started, though, I wanted to introduce our amazing co-host today, who's Joe Charles. Joe lives in London, like I mentioned before. He has a degree in technology management, which is using technology to help businesses achieve their goals. He enjoys getting to understand his clients' problems and then showing them how Kartra can be used to solve those problems for them. He helps coaches, consultants, and authors build their online businesses with Kartra and copywriting. A fun fact about Joe, which I love, is that he loves movies, but he never watches the trailer. He prefers to have the story unfold as it's intended. What Joe loves about Kartra is that coaches, consultants, and authors have the power to direct their own destinies all through one single application instead of struggling to understand 7+ applications. So without further ado, I will let Joe take it away.
Thank you very much, Grant. I'm very happy to be here. Okay, let's jump in. Let's get started. All right, so today we're going to be discussing transforming your emails, mastering copywriting, and lead magnets in Kartra. Oh, Grant, I meant to ask, are the slides showing okay?
Yeah, looks great, Joe.
All right, super. So today's agenda, here's a summary of what we'll be discussing today. We'll be discussing what copywriting is and is not. We'll be discussing why copywriting is so important, especially when it comes to your emails, how to write great copy, even if you're way too busy building your business. For examples of things that we'll cover will be compelling headlines and how to create them. A simple lead generation, also known as list building funnel that you can put in place today to work for you. The beginning of your lead generation funnel, i.e. your lead magnets. We'll also talk about types of lead magnets and how to build a simple lead generation funnel in Kartra and much more. There'll also be questions and answers. So as we go along, by all means, please put your questions in the chat and Grant will let me know and then I'll answer them for you. Getting tongue-tied already. Right. So what is copywriting and what is copywriting and what isn't? So it's a form of what's called effective communication. The purpose of effective communication is to move the recipient to action. It's also a form of promotional writing, and examples of copywriting that you would have seen would be sales letters, be they physical or digital, video sales letters, email campaigns, webinars. Copywriting can also be described as salespersonship, but in writing. Something that's very exciting for you about copywriting, especially if you have a digital business and you're using Kartra, is that copywriting is one of the most leverageable tools that you have at your disposal in your business. And the reason for this is because of the comparatively little, as in zero to very little cost that it takes for you to create a boost in sales revenue from improving your copy. And we'll go into some of that in a bit more detail. Copywriting is also a science as well as an art, and many professional copywriters have been perfecting this for decades, and still every day they learn something new. Today, what we'll be discussing is some of the proven shortcuts that these professionals have been using for years that you can use today in your business, even if you're just getting started. And we will be focusing on list building, and we'll talk a little about sales as well, and how you can use copywriting to execute that within your business. So what is copywriting not? Examples of things that you might see that might look like copywriting but really aren't are useful articles to subscribers, engage in social media posts, podcast content, weekly blogs or video logs, etc. All of these fall under the umbrella of content writing. So why is copywriting so important, especially when it comes to your emails? If you have a small to mid-sized business, there are a plethora of marketing channels that you can use to create revenue for your business. Social media is one of them, the different social media platforms, of course. There are so many ways that you can raise money. You can hire a sales team, you can do telephone calls. There's just so many ways of making money, but the one that's been proven to have the highest return on investment, and this is for over a decade now that this has been so, the highest return on investment is email marketing. And according to Litmus, which is a email marketing specialist firm, they work with a number of the very large providers of email marketing, and they've been studying this for quite some time. According to them, the return on investment for email marketing for small to mid-sized businesses is 36 to 1, meaning that for every dollar you spend, you get a return of $36. So that's very, very high indeed. That Litmus test also showed that depending on the industry you're in, that return on investment can be even higher. It can be as high as 40, 50 to 1. So it can be very high indeed. And also on this page, what we see is that according to the Direct Marketing Association, 66% of consumers have made a purchase online due to having received an email marketing message. So that shows that even though email has been around for a very long time, it is still a very powerful driver of sales for small and mid-sized businesses. And as you can see here, it says that email still holds the first place when it comes to being the most effective form of marketing. Email marketing Another reason why emails are especially important to you as a marketer, as an owner of a Kartra account, as an owner of a small and growing business, is that there's been a statistic that has been spoken of many times in the internet marketing world, which is that for every subscriber you have on your subscriber list, so within your Kartra account, that subscriber is worth $1 to you each month. What this means is if you have 1,000 subscribers, that's your email subscriber list is worth $1,000 to you each month. And if you have if you have 10,000 subscribers rather, then it's worth $10,000 a month to you. The ways in which you get those kind of returns on the investment you've made by building a subscriber list is through allowing your subscribers to know, like, and trust you. So this is through initiating a relationship with them, and we'll talk about some ways that you can do that coming up. So you now know what copywriting is. Let's talk about how to write great copy, even if you're too busy building your business. So here are some of the keys to great copy. The first key to great copywriting is to fall in love with your target market. Learn everything that you can about them. Genuinely care about them and relate to them from that place. Join them in the conversation that's already going on in their minds. I'll explain a bit more about what I mean by the conversation going on in their minds when we start to go a little deeper into who they are. Articulate what's happening for them so clearly that it becomes obvious that you really do understand them. What is it like to be in your target market's life? What is it like to walk a day in their shoes? What's it like to be in their life for a week? The more you understand about them, the more you will be able to communicate to them from a place of a much deeper understanding. Focus on what they say their issues are versus what we as the experts might observe those issues to actually be. This helps you speak in their language. So focus on what they say the issues are. And these could be problems or they could be dreams. So depending on the level of the person that you're speaking to, some people's lives, some target market lives are burdened with problems. Some other target markets have dreams or aspirations that they want to realize that they're not having realized. So depending on what level of person you're dealing with in your target markets, it'll be one of these that you're dealing with in general. We must first seek to understand them before they will understand us. This is very important because often when we start a small business and we're excited about going out and promoting our wares and selling our goods and services, we are very busy talking to the target audience or talking at the target audience. But if we take the time to first understand them, even though we have some understanding of who they are and how we can help them, if we take the time to understand them at a deeper level, we are more likely to speak their language. And this is very important in copywriting. So here are some practical ways that you can do all of the things I mentioned on the other slide. The items on the other slide may feel a little amorphous. So here are some practical ways that you can put those in place in your business. Professional copywriters achieve this by doing deep research. So they'll spend weeks, months at a time researching a target market for a particular project or to sell a particular good or service in order to get the kind of answers that we are talking about here. But these are ways that you can do it with your small and growing businesses. You can actually telephone your clients or your potential clients, have a conversation with them, get to know them, understand what their challenges are in relation to your arena of expertise. You can meet with them face to face to discuss these same points. Through Kartra, you can simply even just send an email with a bunch of questions to them and ask them to hit reply so that you start getting direct replies from people about things. This will facilitate further deeper discussion with them depending on the answers you receive. Also within Kartra, as a Kartra user, you have access to the power of surveys. You can use these to learn so much more about your target markets. And when you use surveys, not only do you receive individual responses from your survey respondents, but you can also get a sense of the general picture of your subscribers. So you can see things like what percentage of people prefer blue to white, or whatever it is that the options might be for you in your business. What we're trying to do with these questions is we're trying to build a profile. So of course, there will be the general demographic information, such as how old are they, what sex they are, what profession, occupation they are, where they live. But also we want to go deeper and understand things like what their pain points are, what problems they experience as it relates to your area of expertise. We also want to know about what dreams they have, or what aspirations they have, or what opportunities they think they will have coming up on the horizon that they need your help to capitalize on. We also want to ask them or find out from them what constant or ruminating concerns, worries, or problems they are living with or that they have. The above must come from a genuine place of interest. We cannot be self-serving when we ask them this. It has to come from a place of genuinely having fallen in love with our target markets and wanting to help them. And if we don't do this with that energy, if we call it that, it's very easy for them to know, and we won't really get the answers that we're looking for. Compelling email subject lines, some tips. So when you're writing email subject lines, it's very important to not decide on what the subject line is until after you've written the email. So even if you're writing a whole batch of emails, even if you're writing a campaign of 4 to 8 or 10 or however many emails, my advice on this would be only give the subject lines after you've written them all out. The next is choose a simple subject line that's easy to understand. It's sometimes your recipients only have a short time window in order to decide whether or not an email you sent them is going to be of interest to them or not. And so having an easy to understand subject line is very helpful in that regard. Very importantly, choose a benefit-driven subject line. The benefit must be clear to your recipients. So it has to be a benefit for them, a benefit-driven subject line that tells your reader what they will gain. A couple of examples, assuming we were talking about the electric vehicle markets, might be something like how to choose the best EV for your needs. New factors to help you determine your EV needs in 2024. So these would be subjects that if a particular recipient receives, they will very easily be able to tell, oh, okay, that's the value there for me. You know what? I am in the market for a new car. I was thinking of an EV. And yes, this could be a good thing for me to read. So benefits driven. What additional benefits that are usually an unpleasant experience for your recipients is actually maybe automatically already bundled in to your offer. Another way of thinking of this is using the structure, how to get what you want without what you wish to avoid. And an example of that using our EV markets again could be how to choose your best EV without spending 4 weeks in deep research. So there are usually things that people want to gain, and they usually come with a price that's in addition to money. So wherever your solution actually takes those things they wish to avoid away from them, mention it in your subject line. This will be very powerful in making them understand, okay, great, this is not just going to be another 900-point checklist of how to pick my EV, but this is going to be something that helps me select my EV in record time. So, for example, from a different industry, we could have a subject line such as how to earn $250,000 in sales commission in 6 months, but without being pushy. And that's because for many people who are new to the industry of sales, being pushy is one of the things they don't ever want to be seen as being. They've had it done to them and it wasn't fun. Now, when you got your subject line ideas, something that really helps you get the best subject line is to write down 100, brainstorm 100 subject lines for that particular email. Brainstorm 100 subject lines and then choose the one that you feel best works given the scenario. So here are some examples of what great copy is not. It's not statements like, we are the best, whatever, we are the premier provider of blah, blah, blah. We have the most qualifications. It's not about singing our own praises, but rather it's about demonstrating that we have indeed been listening to our target market. Great copy. Here's another example of great copy. This is something that I call copy malpractice. It will make sense as I give the example. So imagine the situation of comparing two doctors. You got Dr. A and Dr. B. Dr. A has prescribed the patient an armful of medication before the patient had even had the chance to finish describing their symptoms. Dr. B has listened to the patient, asked questions to understand more, and together with the patient has agreed on a prescription and, the next time to come back for a check-in. Now, the answer is pretty obvious, but which of these doctors do you think the patient is more likely to trust and want to come back to? Now, next, I want to discuss with you the structure of emails. So the first clue usually that we have an email might be an alert on our desktop device or our mobile device. And when we open our email application, we're usually greeted with this kind of a view. It's our inbox. And in our inbox, we can typically see who an email is from, when it was sent, and what the email subject line is. This view determines if we will even open an email. And I'll talk more about this. So this is very important for your copyright. The structure of emails. The subject line determines, bear with me, the subject line determines if we'll even open the email at all. The introductory line or paragraph within the email determines if we will make it to the email body. The body of the email determines if we'll read it to the end. The end determines if we'll take the sender up on their offer. And that offer in your case will be whatever your expertise is. So it might be a consultation with you. It might be an audit, depending on what your line of business is. But what's important is to understand the structure of emails from a copywriting perspective and how they impact what comes next. And so it's very important at each stage to get things right. And I'll give you some tips for how to do that so that people read our emails all the way through to the end and take the action that we want them to take. So here is a very simple, probably one of the simplest and yet one of the most effective communication structures that you can use in emails. You may have heard of this before, but if you haven't, this is going to be an excellent structure for the content of your emails. It's called the AIDA method, and it's an abbreviation, and I'll talk you through each of the steps. So the A is for attention. What we want to do here is grab their mental attention. So, for example, statements like 70% of EVs will lose 20% of their current range within the next 24 months. Something I didn't mention before, but that's very important for copywriting as well, is specificity. The more specific we can be in what we say, the easier it will be for people to follow us, believe us, and be intrigued by what we share with them in our copywriting. So At this stage, we simply grab their attention, and this would be usually with the first sentence or the first paragraph of the email we're sending. Next, we have the part that's called interest. And here what we want to do is we want to connect this topic that we're discussing with the recipients. And a way that we can do that in this case with our EVs would be to say something like this. If you currently drive a model 2016 to 2020 EV, then you may be affected by this new discovery, blah, 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 and then we continue. We're now making it connected to the recipient. Next in this structure, in this formula, is the decision. We need to create a scenario in which our recipient makes a decision. So here we go. What we're doing at this phase is we're simplifying, we're making it very obvious to them what their choices are. So, for example, we could say something like, you can continue as you are, or you can join us on our webinar next week, where we'll be discussing, where we'll be having a webinar discussion with our panel of leading experts, where we outline the best remedies to solve this problem. The final part of the AIDA method is action. In emails, you're probably used to hearing the expression a call to action. It's related to this point over here. So here we're telling them usually just one clear call to action per email is what we're looking for. So here we're telling them exactly what they need to do in order to partake of the offer that we have made to them within our email. And that could be something as simple as click on the link below to register now for our webinar next week. All right. So here are some other ideas for the content of emails. Provide tips, ideas. So provide one reason per email for the reader to take action on the offer that you're making to them. Often we may have many reasons why it would be a good idea for our email recipient to act on what we're saying. But it's best to keep these to just one idea, one reason per email. And if you do that, you can have almost themed emails. I'll give you some examples here. Now, the benefit of this is that it stops you sounding repetitive. So something that doesn't work so well is if people are receiving emails that seem like they're all saying the same thing, or they are in fact the same thing. But instead, using this method that I'm about to explain here, you'll be writing emails that sound different, that actually are different, but will all have the same result of bringing people to take the action that you want. So here are some examples, again, following on from our EV market. Right, so new options for EV insurance rates, even if you're still under contract. So if you can imagine, I'll read the others. So all EV charging stations are not born equal. How to upgrade your electric vehicle without losing out on the old resale value. How to boost the range of your electric vehicle with little known legal hacks. So if you can imagine that this fictitious panel that we talked about a few minutes ago that will be on the webinar next week is made up of experts. And if the experts all have different specialities, one perhaps deals in insurance, one knows things about charging stations, one knows about how to upgrade, but with you keeping most of your money, and if yet another knows about how you can boost the range of your electric vehicles, then each one of these experts could be a separate reason why people should want to check out the webinar that you're holding next week. This is very important because when we're writing emails, when we're writing copy, our recipient is not necessarily sitting in front of us. They're not in front of us. We can't see their faces. We can't ask them questions. It's not in that moment, it's not a two-way dialogue that we're having with them. And it's not always easy to know which specific reason will be the one that's most important to this particular recipient. But if we have multiple advantages to the offer we're making, and if we articulate them as we are here by giving them different reasons to come, then it could be that it's reason number 4 that really works for a particular person and brings them to the webinar next week. And for yet another recipient, it could be reason number 2 that works for them. So the more reasons we have in an email campaign to give people to take the action that we're looking for, the fresher our emails will look, because they won't seem tired or repetitive, and they will be more interesting to people. And even if they read one of our emails that's of lesser interest to them, it will certainly pique their interest or get them understanding more in terms of the dimensions of what it is that we're offering in our office. Some copywriting tips. A few more copywriting tips. So when we write, it's best to write. It's very easy when we send out an email to say things like "Hi all" or "Hi everyone," and we always want to be writing to just one person. The reason why we're writing to one person is that it is more connecting to that person. And also, if we think about it, we will realize that although we are on our own when we send out this email, the people we're sending to, they're not all in the same room. It would be different if it were a face-to-face seminar and they were all in the same room and we said, "Hi, everyone," or, "Hi, you all." That wouldn't be a problem. But given that they would be receiving this independently and they are separate from everybody else, it's more connecting to them to address them as one individual. The next point I wanted to share with you regarding copywriting is that sales, and we mentioned earlier that copywriting is salesmanship in writing, is that sales is a transfer of enthusiasm. So you want to be in this relationship that you have with your recipients. You want to be as transparent with them as you want them to be with you. And in doing that, your enthusiasm is a good thing. It is good for them to see your genuine enthusiasm. However, do avoid being overly hypey or being overly negative about doom and gloom or terrible things coming. Now, of course, if there are indeed terrible things coming, then mention that. But it is absolutely okay to be excited. Just don't be overly hypey. And the reason for these is that it is shown that being overly negative or overly hypey doesn't really instill trust in recipients. Next, don't sell with your emails. So we're focusing on email copywriting here today for the purposes of our discussion here, but it's very important to know that you don't use your emails to sell. Ideally, you want your emails to be these vehicles that keep bringing people to where your sales message is. So you write different messages, you give your recipients different reasons, things they haven't considered before, even things they thought they knew, you can have a new perspective on, but you give them different reasons. And through that experience, they're learning more about you and how you think and how you can help them. And through the experience of receiving your emails, you're also training them to click. You're training them to open your emails because they're always going to be interesting. They're not repetitive. They will always be interesting. And on top of that, you're training them to click because your sales message will always be somewhere else, but you will link to that in the email. So examples of places where your sales message could be would be on a sales page, on a video sales letter page, on a webinar, for example. It could be whatever medium it is that you want to deliver the actual sales message. So all your emails will be just, in a way, priming people to be ready for that sales conversation elsewhere. The last point here to do with copywriting tips is measure and track your performance. So with an amazing tool like Kartra, this is very easy to do because we can see our open rates, we can see our click-through rates, and we can also split test. Split testing is very important because over time you start to learn what works well and what doesn't work well with your audience through your tests. If you aren't familiar yet, split testing, also known as A/B testing, is a way by which you can compare two or more versions of an email or a sales page or of a different marketing collateral piece, a marketing asset rather. So the ways in which you can use split testing would be to have a similar body of email, but maybe you're just not sure for you after you went through your list of 100 emails, after you generated rather your list of 100 emails, email subject lines. It may be that there were 2 or 3 you thought were winning subject lines, but you just couldn't decide between them. So what you can do is you can put all 2 or 3 into Kartra, and Kartra will send your emails out to your recipients, and Kartra will also observe and study and give you the information about which of those 3 headlines is performing the best. So you will have this information, and this will inform your decisions with regards to email subject lines for this campaign and others. Artificial intelligence. I thought it might be important to mention this. Now, even though it's not one of the bullet points that we had here, I thought it was very, very important to discuss this with you because it is it's been a big thing now for a little over a year. So artificial intelligence is very powerful, but it is no replacement for your personal voice, your what I call unique expression. All of us have unique expression. Even 2 people selling the exact same products and services don't have the same perspectives, the same ways of looking at it. You can see examples of this with books that are written on the same topics or films that are made on the same topics. You'll see that each writer has got a different voice and a different approach to the subject matter, and the same is true for you. So even though AI is very powerful, it cannot write like you can. So the next point I have here is that AI cannot write better than you can if you follow the guidelines I've given you here. And this is because AI cannot feel like you can, because you are human. It can't empathize like you can. It's very smart, very capable, and it's learning a lot about us, but it isn't a person. It doesn't have those capabilities. By all means, experiment with AI, but remember that AI is to be led by you, not the other way around. AI is definitely fabulous when it comes to generating lots of ideas. So if you're looking for, some new subject lines or some new subjects even to share with your target market, you can definitely use AI to generate some ideas and see which ones you like. Also, if you feed into AI the criteria, this is if you're interested in testing AI or trying out AI, or if you're using it now, you can actually put into AI these criteria that I've shared with you so far. You can put them into AI and see what it comes back with, and I think you'll find some much more interesting ideas than maybe what you had previously through AI. All right. So next, we're going to talk about a simple lead generation funnel. Lead generation is an expression that you may hear a lot, especially if you're new to Kartra or new to internet marketing. It's the same thing as list building. And list building is building up your email subscribers. And so what we're talking about here is a funnel that we'll use to do that. And in case the word funnel is also new to you, we use the word funnel because the way it works is very much like a physical funnel, where how funnels are. They have the shape like that, and at the top end, we are inviting people to come in, have a taste of something, and then as time goes on, usually mathematically it's just always the way it works. Even if we start with 100 people, we'll then have 80, 60. It just gets smaller and smaller as we go through the phases. And the phases could be, we offer them something that they try out. Maybe they try it out, they realize it's not quite for them, or they're not really quite the niche that we're going for. So, and that's absolutely fine. Everybody we approach with our products or services is not going to be right for us. And that's why all of these things we're talking about are very important, because for those that are right, we want to make sure our message resonates with them. So what we're talking about here next is a very simple lead generation funnel that you can put into place today. So the simplest lead generation funnel works a bit like this. It starts out with you sending traffic to a page that you build in Kartra, a landing page in Kartra, which we call your landing page for your lead magnets. I'll explain what lead magnets are in a moment. Now, after they go there, they sign up for that lead magnet, which is usually something free and interesting and valuable that you are sharing with the target market for free, usually. So they sign up for this, and there's a thank you page. Now, usually on the thank you page, you can make another offer, or you could just make it so that you deliver whatever they've signed up for on that page. So examples of these could be, and a good example might be signing up for a webinar. So sometimes webinars are used as lead magnets. So they're a way of generating a lot of email subscribers. So you sign up to someone's email list, and on the thank you page, they deliver the webinar login details to us. They tell us, they give us the details, and usually there's a link that when we click on that, we'll add that webinar to our calendar so that we remember to be there. After that, we may receive a welcome email. And all of this, by the way, is doable in Kartra. So after that, we'll send them an email, a welcome email. The welcome email, depending on what the lead magnet was, can also be used to deliver that lead magnet. And then usually after that, at this point, you could say that the offer is concluded at this point, in that we made an offer to them to give them a webinar or an ebook or whatever it might be. They signed up for it, they went to the thank you page, they received it, or it was delivered to them via the welcome email. And after that, we now have the opportunity to do something very important, and that is to begin our relationship with them on a more deeper level. So now we're sharing valuable information with them through an email campaign. And we're using this email campaign to nurture these new leads that have just come into our universe. So we're building a relationship with them. We're giving them a sense of how we work, how we can help them, what we can do for them. So they're getting to know us. And this is very good, because in the future, we might make them an offer for sale, by the way. So this is the same funnel that we just looked at. And we're saying with this in place, you can later send your subscribers an email campaign inviting them to check out an offer. So now let's talk about the beginning of your lead generation funnel. And that's the lead magnet, which you might remember I mentioned a few seconds ago that we would talk about some more. So here we go. So your lead magnet is an ethical bribe. It's an ethical bribe that you give to your target market in exchange for their email address. It is something that solves a major problem for them. It's something that they find valuable. It can be very valuable information. It can be the technique to solve a problem they have. it's something that you've identified through your conversations with your target market. It's something that you have identified your target market needs and is looking for. And it's something that you can easily offer for free. If you want your lead magnet to be irresistible, then let it be something that solves such a big problem for them that they would happily pay for it. But you are going to surprise them by offering it to them for free. You see, the reason why I mention this point is that we're in a world where the internet is much faster than it was 20 years ago. Many more people are online than there were 20 years ago. So in this environment, it's very important to stand out from the noise. And if you're offering a lead magnet that is truly valuable, truly invaluable to your target markets, it will be easy for them to see the value in what you're offering and to go for your offer. Next, I want to talk about types of lead magnets. So lead magnets can be physical items. For the purposes of us here, with Kartra, in the Kartra community, I suspect that what we would be looking at would be mainly digital, but they can absolutely be physical products if that works for you. So for example, it could be a CD that you send. If you're in the wellness industry and you do things like testing for people, it might be something like, hey, look, send me your hair sample and I'll give you a test of how many heavy metals you have in your system or something like that. And then maybe the upsell is that you then put them through a program of removing heavy metals from their system. But your lead magnet might be that free test. So that's a way in which physical items could work. Now, when it comes to digital items, they could be almost anything. It could be audio files such as meditation tracks. It could be video files such as a very important discussion or maybe a keynote you developed, that you delivered somewhere. It could be electronic items such as ebooks, white papers if you're in the more corporate markets. It could be an infographic, which is just a visual display that simplifies the explanation of something. It could be a checklist. Checklists are very important. Right now we're using, Webinar Jam, and there is a checklist for how to use Webinar Jam. There is a certain step-by-step procedure for using this platform. It can also be a webinar, but I would say that this is advanced. If you're just starting out, I do not recommend using a webinar as a lead magnet. The reason for this is that ideally you want your lead magnets to also be something that feels like a small commitment on the part of your target market to engage with. So a webinar, typically these days, webinars are about an hour. They go anywhere from 30 minutes and they can be 2 hours long. So that could be a pretty large commitment if your target markets are still just getting to know you or if you are just getting started. So a smaller commitment instead might be something digital, such as an ebook or something that could be a PDF like an infographic or a checklist. These are very easy for your in terms of commitments. It's a very small commitment on the part of your target markets, and they can easily check it out in no time and determine that you've got something of value and they want to learn more from you and see what more you have to offer. All right, so that's the end of this section. The section we're going to next is where we're going to build for you in Kartra a funnel. So I'll just stop sharing the slides. So bear with me, I'm just going to log into Kartra and then we'll start to build a funnel. Okay, Grant, please let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, so let's proceed. So when we're building a simple sales funnel in Kartra that you can use for lead generation, we start out with your landing page first of all. Now in Kartra, you can actually select from any of the templates we have here, and what you'll choose here will be what's known as the squeeze page. And here's a good one that we can use. So let's assume that we like that particular page. So we just select that. And we'll call this Kartra community. Lead magnets page. When it comes to categories, I usually would choose something like squeeze page for that. I'll just fast forward through the tutorial. But if you're new, do look at the tutorial when you're going through this because it's helpful for reminding you of how to use Kartra. So in the interest of time, let's pretend that our lead magnet is going to be a book. And let's say this is a picture of our book and we're very happy with everything. And we're happy with the copy that we've written here. Next, we will connect a form to this landing page. And this is how we connect the form. So in this case, it's going to be a brand new form. So we just click on. And we'll call this form. The Kartra community form. That's okay. It always says error initially. So like we said, let's assume we are. Oh, and now we're going to publish this page. And publishing the page finalizes the page and then makes it available on the internet. We're now giving the page a name. Kartra community, a URL. landing page. Okay, very good. So our page is up. We'll fix this in a minute. It just means that we've only partially done the form. So we'll close this. So next we'll go into forms. And we'll complete that form that we began. You see it's the right one, Kartra community form. And this has the information we want. We just want first name and email address. And the reason we only want first name and email address for a lead magnet is because the more things we ask people to fill in, the smaller the number of people that actually will fill it in. We're going to go for the single opt-in, not the double opt-in. It's easier for recipients to work with. We'll configure the thank you page later. If we wanted to send them a welcome message, here's where we would configure that. So we click here to send them a welcome message. And you might remember when we were on the PowerPoint slides, I mentioned that this would be the opportunity to deliver. This was the second opportunity to deliver something. We can deliver an ebook to them on the thank you page, but we can also deliver it via email if we choose to. So here we can configure our email. We can say, hello first name. This is the code, the dynamic variable code for first name. Thank you for signing up. We hope you enjoy our book. Thank you. Hi, Grant.
Hello, sorry, I had to come back in.
Yes, no worries, no worries. Yes, I'm doing the building the funnel parts.
Amazing. Yeah, if you guys have questions about this part especially, let us know. I know Kartra can sometimes be tricky if you're newer, but good thing we have an expert here.
And thank you, Grant. And after we've configured our welcome message, we now have the opportunity to add tags and lists and put people in sequence. So I'll explain briefly what these are. So a tag is a way of differentiating a particular type of lead, a particular type of email subscriber within your Kartra account. So it may be that these are, let's see here. So let's give these ones a tag. It may be that we want to say these are all of the people who ordered the blue book. So we would call that ordered. ordered the 2024 Blue Book. And the tags, you can have colors. You can color code your tags if you want. And we have a little more space to explain what we meant by what this tag means. So we say ordered the latest rewritten version of our Blue Book. And if you wanted to group our tags, it may be that we find it helpful to have our tags in groups. So in this case, an idea for a category might be, this might be a tag to do with our books, for example. So a new category might be books, because maybe we have green books and yellow books too. So this is just a books tag that we're giving them. So we're now creating that tag. And to make sure it sticks, we add the tag in. And we may also want to subscribe them to a list. I'll show you how. So it may be that for everyone who signs up for the Blue Book, we also want to give them access to our news and updates. So we just added them to our news and updates list. We'll do that, and we'll save that. And we'll save this too. And now we'll go on to the next. At this point, we don't want to subscribe them to any sequences, and we don't have any other automations that we want them to be part of. Automations would be things such as, if they sign up for the Blue Book, then puts them on the waiting list to be made aware of the Blue Seminar when we launch that. But in this case, we're just keeping it simple. This is just a simple lead generation funnel we're building here. Okay, so yes, now we want to use this on Kartra, not embed it somewhere else. So we're sticking with this, and we'll save that. And so now we're almost done. Now we need to create a thank you page. So what options do we have? So there are many options here. If ever you're stuck, you can just go through these options over here to pick this type of page you're looking for. Do we have? Yeah. So yes, when you have time, rather make the time to go through these to make it easy. They're also even arranged in color order, so you can pick by color now. But I can see that there's one here. So we'll just use this and pretend that we've been searching and we like the look of this page. So we've previewed the page and we think, yep, that's it. That's perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. And we're going to select it, and we will call this the Kartra Community Thank You page. Okay, and this is under the category of our thank you pages. And it's for no particular sites. To explain what sites are, they are ways of categorizing pages. So with Kartra, you can have multiple domains. So you might have mybusiness.com, you might have myhobby.com. These might be real domains that you have. And if you wanted to separate these pages, then one site might be called My Business and the other might be called My Hobby. So that's how that can work for you. So we'll create this now. Again, I'm just fast forwarding through the tutorial steps, but if you're new to Kartra, do look at them because they're very helpful and they're very good reminders. Every time you create a page, they just remind you of how the Kartra pages works, which, as you'll find out, is very nice and logical. All right, so now again, we'll just assume that we've been working on this page, we've added our logo, and we're happy with everything. And when we're happy with everything, we will save it. So you can see here that this is an example of a page that has a download button on it. If it doesn't have one, you can always add one. But here's what you can do with those. So you might remember I talked about delivering our lead magnet via the thank you page. That's how we're going to do it in this case. So in this case, we're going to pick a file that we want them to be able to download. We want to make it be a document. So we're going to pick, so for everyone who, so we're just going to assume that this document here called How to Find Your Purpose, we're going to assume that's our blue book. So we attach that. It's attached, it says so here, it says, you can see the blue tick and then we apply. Okay, and then we publish live. And again, we can change the URL so that it's on our domain. It's absolutely fine being on Kartra, but if you have a custom domain such as yourbusinessname.com, then you can change this. And we just call this Kartra Community Thank You page. And in case we need to look at that later, I'm just copying the URL and adding it here. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to our form so that we can add the information about the thank you page. That's why it's incomplete. That's why we got the red here. So just click on that to go to our forms again. And we'll edit this form. We're fine with the fields. And it's the success page, also known as the thank you page, that we're about to change or add in this case. So our success page is not an external page, it's a Kartra page. Our success page is not on any particular sites. And our success page was called KC Thank You page. There we go. So we just select it from there. We add that and we save that. And these are all the settings we had seen before. So that's the tag we assigned, and that's the list we assigned anybody who signed up for the Blue Book 2. There we go, we're all set. So now you come back to this page. So what I've done is I just pressed apply again. So you might remember previously there was an error message here because the form was incomplete. Now that the form is complete, when I press apply again, it automatically updates because it recognizes that it is now complete. So in fact, if we go to the page now, there's the error message. I'll refresh and it should, oh, actually, I didn't publish. So I'll publish first, publish live. So that's now published. And if we go back to the page and refresh, we'll see that our page is now live, and you'll see it has a URL that's based on my company. And same here, the thank you page is live and working. And if we click on this, you see it shows us the how to find your purpose document. So which we're imagining is our blue book. All right, so I'll just press back on that. So we know that those two things are working perfectly. Now, so we've got the first parts of our funnel. And let me just show that to you again, by the way. So this is funnel. So what let me make this larger. Okay, so that's larger. So hopefully you can see that better now. So we've just worked on this. So we just worked on the landing page and the thank you page, and we also created the welcome email. We chose to deliver our lead magnet through the thank you page, and next we're going to create an email campaign, and that's it. So we're complete after that. So let's jump back in. So we're back in Kartra, and so this is the Kartra dashboard. Whenever you press, no matter where you are in Kartra, whenever you press on the words Kartra, it brings you back to the dashboard. So let's make this easy to read. Okay, so next we want to create our email campaign. So for that, we go into communications. And in communications, there are two types of messages that we can send out with Kartra. Broadcasts, which are one-off email messages, or sequences. Our email campaign is going to be a series of messages, so we're going to go with sequences. So we will create a sequence, and we will call this sequence Kartra Community Sequence. And Kartra allows you to have private and public facing names. So here you might have abbreviated names that only mean something to you. But these other names over here are public facing. So when people receive your Kartra emails and they click to see what their subscription status is with you, they will be able to see this. So you want to give this a name that would make sense to your subscribers. And like all things in Kartra, you have a tutorial again. So if it's your first time building a sequence, there'll be a tutorial here that helps you through that. And it just gives you a quick and useful overview of everything you'll need to know when you're building a sequence in Kartra. But yeah, and I recommend going through those in your own time. So when we're building a sequence, we always have what I call starting rules. So in this case, we're thinking of what is the event that triggers this sequence? What happens? And in our case, it's going to be that someone filled in the form on our lead magnet landing page. So we will select, so we'll press plus, and we'll go to, there's a form that they filled in. And now we're going to choose a form. and we called ours Kartra community form. There could be other triggers too, but in this case, that will be just fine. Other triggers that could work could be somebody joins a list, and you might remember we created the Kartra community list, or someone is tagged, and you may remember as well that we had the tag that people would get who chose to download the Blue Book. So any of these would be a good enough trigger. So we've got our starting point, and now what we want to do is send them an email. So what we'll do is we'll pick the actions from here. Other things we could choose to do would be send them an SMS, add them to a list, to another list, unsubscribe them from another list, etc. And this time we're going to send an email. So we'll drag an email over here. And Kartra is very, very flexible. So we can decide how soon after the previous action, which in this case was filling the form, we want them to receive this email. So in this case, we want it to go right after the previous step. So that's fine. We could even have it executed on a particular day, but what we want is to go right after. So click that. We also, with our target market, we're fine, all days of the week. It doesn't matter when they receive it. But if you're in a line of business where people are only looking at their emails Monday to Friday, you might decide to not have the weekends ticked. But in this case, we're going to assume it's fine for all days of the week. And at any time. Again, if there are restrictions, if you only need this going out to people between 8 and 5 or 9 and 5, you can select that there. But Kartra gives you lots of choice. Okay, so we're going to call this broadcast the Blue Book follow-up email campaign. Okay, all those details look correct. We're sending it via Kartra mail. We're not using another provider, so that's all good. And we don't want to ignore GDPR because we're in Europe. So now who do we want to send this email to? And in this case, we're just going to send it to anybody who's reaching this step. And this step, you might remember, what happened before the step was that people were filling out the form. So that's fine for our purposes. And we're going to press next. So now in this case, we're not split testing. So we're just going to send a single email. But if we were split testing, then we would choose this option where we could create those 2 or 3 options I talked about for split testing earlier. So we are going with a single option. And here's where we write the content of the email. And our first title might be something like Your Blue Book. And here we might say something like, hello, first name. We are very excited for you. Very excited for you with regards to your journey ahead and the benefits that the Blue Book will bring. We might want to give them a heads up about some things to look forward to in the book. We might say something like, hey, look out for page 12, where we talk about this. Page 18, where we talk about that. And page 21, where we talk about this other thing. And those, and the purpose for doing something like that is, I just see here, best regards, Joe. Okay, and it's always wise to test sending your emails, and the way you test them is you just enter in your email address, and the blue button will come, and then you press send. But for the purpose of our training here, I won't do that. But it's good for you to do that when you're sending them, because you can see what they look like, and then you can make adjustments if you want something said differently or arranged differently. There we go. So email 1 has now been created. Now, I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'll speed up the process. So what I'm going to do is clone email 2. And in order to do that, the controls over here, just hover over the 3 dots. Now I'm going to clone that. And that's email 3. And, sorry, not email 2 rather. And I'll clone this one too. And that's our 3rd email. And let's say we had a 4th one. So I'll clone that too. So let's say our campaign has 4 emails. So next, what I'm going to do is link these. And to link them, what I do is I take the cursor to the base over here with the dome shape, and I pull the line over to this dome on top of that one, and do the same thing here, and the same thing here, and the same thing here. And we can actually tidy this up a bit. So we just click on this arrange button, and everything gets more neatly arranged for us. The next thing I'm going to do, so right now this is almost ready to go, but these are inactive. So we actually have to switch each of these emails on. So I'll press activate on each one, and you'll notice now you can see what they say more clearly. They're not grayed out anymore. Activate and activate. Very good. So we're all set. So this is now done. And what we may choose to do after this is say that our sequence is complete after this. So just bring it in a complete tag. And make that active as well. I think in the interest of space, this may work better horizontally. Okay, so there we go. So that's our sequence. So that's done. And this is now live. So now anyone who fills in the form will we'll get that. Let me see here. Let's go over to the list. Just thinking I can do one more small thing for you. So where's our latest list? How are we doing for time? Grant, so that's it. That's how you build in Kartra. That's how you build a simple lead generation funnel. Grant, do we have some questions, please? Oh, Grant, I can't hear you. Sorry, I'm not sure if you're on mute. I need to stop sharing screen. No, I still don't hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. Why is that? Not sure why, Grant. I could hear you before. All right, we'll wait for Grant to come back.
Hey, Joe, can you hear me?
Hey, yes, now I can hear you, Grant. Yes.
Okay, I apologize, guys. My microphone just turned off all of a sudden. But yes, we do have some questions. So from Claude Bailey asks, what's a good open and click rate for B2B emails?
Okay. The answer is that it depends. I'll give you some numbers, but it also depends. So even though there are, you could say, industry benchmarks with this kind of information, what you want to do is just pay attention to what's happening in your business. So whatever statistics you had last month, just pay attention to what those are, see what they are this month, see what they will be next month, and they keep improving. But a good open rate is about 25%. 30 is great. And also, the reason why some of these numbers are a little amorphous is because it also depends on the quality of the list. And what I mean by the quality of the list is that it's about the quality of the relationship that the list owner has with their subscribers. So do they email them often? If they don't, then there's a likelihood that they will be less responsive. Are they following some of the rules that we've talked about here? If they aren't, then if they aren't following some of the rules that we've talked about here, then there's a good chance that their audiences will be less engaged with their content. I hope that helps, but please let me know if there's any follow-up.
Awesome. Yes. Second one is from Trine Berman, who asked, in order not to sell and letting the sales page do the selling, do I just include the link in the email and say something like, check it out? What are the best call to actions to use for them to open the sales page?
Great question. Great question. Yes, that's exactly right. So yes, you'd have a link to your sales page in the email, and you would spend the email setting the scene, so using the examples I gave you with those different topics that you'd use. And then at the end, you'd say, look, if you liked what we said about EV insurance, if you found what we've said about EV insurance, for example, very helpful, then check out this webinar we're doing next week, where we will be going deeper on EV insurance, to do with many other things to do with electric vehicles. That's a way of doing it. So it's a very natural, almost like you'd be talking to a friend. And that by the way, is the purpose behind a lot of this, is that there's nothing pushy or salesy about this kind of approach. It's very, very much like you would talk to a friend or family member. You're just informing them, you're serving them highly by informing them. And then it's a very easy, so, would you like to check out this thing that does more of what you seem to have liked? I hope that helps.
Amazing. I love what you said about transferring enthusiasm. That's all sales is, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're providing a solution, what they have. Yeah. All right. Same person, Trying Vermin, asked, how many leads should I have before split testing is worth it?
Oh, wow. Interesting question. That's a really good question. I think, look, if you're just starting out, the more you have, the better. So I would say if you have 10 people, you can start it if you like, but just understand that it may change dramatically as the numbers go up. So even if you have a subscriber list of 1,000, when you start doing the split testing, you'll see that as it's working through the people subscribing on the A/B pages that have been tested, you'll notice that the numbers will seem as if, oh, page A is leading right now, when only 10 people have gone through it. When it gets to 100 people, you might see, oh yeah, page A is definitely the winner. But by the time it gets to 500, you may realize that page B is in the lead by a huge margin. So I would say it won't matter. You start wherever, but just know that if you have the ability to have more people go through the test, have the larger the number, the better. The information will be better.
Awesome. Great advice, Joe. Claude Bailey asked, what is recommended number of emails to send out in a nurturing sequence?
That is a very good question. I would say it depends on what the scenario is. So sometimes people have a nurture sequence. It depends on the scenario. So here are some examples of scenarios. Sometimes people are trying to re-engage an audience. Maybe they've had a list for a while and they haven't been very engaged with them, so they're trying to re-engage with them. In those cases, hopefully some knowledge of what that audience likes would be helpful, and usually they would give them some kind of a lead magnet that would be very attractive to that audience that they know but haven't been in touch with for a while. If you're just starting out and you want to build up your email subscribers, start having a great relationship with them, and then making them offers in the future, then you might want to have a nurture sequence that might be something like 30 emails long. Because what you want to do is, over time, you want to be engaging them. One way of thinking about this, not a direct answer to your question, but that may help, is initially you want to send an email out to them once a week. That's probably the least frequent you want to be able to send an email. If that's not possible for you in the beginning, then work towards it, do what you can. But it works very well if people are used to receiving an email from you on a specific day of the week. It doesn't matter what the day of the week is, but you may want to change that based on, are you dealing with corporate types and are you selling something that's corporate related, in which case then Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 should be the best times for your email to go out, or do you have that market, but is your product or service more leisure, in which case it should be the weekends or after hours. But the point being that the number of emails may also be dictated by how often you send it, so how often you can. And once a week is good initially. To do with that statistic I shared with you of $1 per month per subscriber, those numbers seemed to go up or be quite good or high when people were engaging with their audiences more frequently. So I know some top internet marketers were engaging with their audiences every day. So one email a day and getting amazing results. So it all depends. Anyway, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, fantastic. Goes along with what you said about knowing your target audience, loving them, genuinely caring about them, because that can shift from person to person.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. And then another question from Tryon says, when should we use the complete versus unsubscribe from a sequence?
That is a really good question. Complete versus unsubscribe. So I would say in the example that we had just now, complete is fine. You only want people to unsubscribe from something that they may need to subscribe to another time. So, for example, if there's an email you do, let's say, for example, let me think of an industry. So maybe you're in human resources. So maybe you're a human resources consultant, and every year there's hundreds of pages of new HR legislation that comes out, and maybe your subscribers pay you so that you can decipher this for them and tell them in one monthly session just what they need to worry about or not worry about this month. So then in that case, because you're going to have people subscribing every month, but you want to keep track of who does, you might elect to tag people who attend each month, but you want them to be able to unsubscribe so that they're not stuck in a sequence that no longer matters, or stuck in something that they will be perhaps prevented from signing up from again in the future. So those may be some ways, but it really depends on the scenario. I personally haven't had too much cause, too many scenarios in which I've had to do an unsubscribe. But in case it helps, if someone buys a service, and you no longer want them to receive it, or they no longer want to be part of it, in that case, then you'd want them to be unsubscribed. So they're no longer getting the emails that would go to the members that are paying members, if that helps.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Too, like a scenario with the unsubscribe, some people will go back and change their email sequences after. So if you have a welcome sequence and then you have just the complete, then that person's technically still within that sequence. And if you go back and make changes, reactivate that sequence, then that person will get those emails again. Whereas if you set up the unsubscribe, then they're no longer part of that welcome email sequence. And so even if you make changes, you restart sequences, they're completely out. Awesome. All righty, Joe. Yeah. Thank you so much. That was amazing. You honestly gave so many pro tips in there. Amazing advice. We really appreciate your time. I put in where to contact Joe. He has a website called purpleandorange.company. Is that the best way, Joe, for people to contact you if you have questions or want to work with you?
That is correct. Yes. Thank you very much, Grant. That is correct. Yes. And when you go there, if you have questions or you want to talk, you can book a free session and we can discuss anything that you have in mind.
Fantastic. And then we're in the Kartra community. So we have a whole Facebook group. If you guys are not a part of that, you're welcome to come in. We have a really amazing certified partners in there, people, experts answering questions. And then if you have any questions for us, you can reach us at community@genesisdigital.co. But thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you, Joe. And until next time.
My pleasure. Thank you all.